Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision. Before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of this business. It's for a service-based business created in July of 2020 in the social media niche. The average monthly revenue for the business is $31,220 and makes an average of $14,515 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are primary domain and all site content and files, 2 secondary domains and all site content and files, contractor relationships, social media pages and accounts, which include Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube, proprietary website dashboard, and media files. And for everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 59835 to learn more about the business, or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So that's a brief overview of the business for sale. Let's hear from the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, Justin. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. And welcome back. I'm looking forward to learning more about you and your business. So to start us off, can you tell us a little about your background in building and running online businesses?
Yeah, I actually started my career in the Navy on board nuclear submarines and got out, went to business school at Stanford. And that was my first exposure to this whole thought of startups, and spent the last 12 years in entrepreneurship on the technology side. Raised money from Google's chairman, Eric Schmidt, and built and sold another company with Empire Flippers. With this company, it's kind of building on about just over a decade of experience in the social media space and some of the insights I learned in that time. And that went into this new business.
That's awesome. By the way, I did notice that you built this in 2020. So like right after the real start of the pandemic. And since then, it's obviously grown very quickly. Why did you choose this business model? I know you said social media. Was there a specific reason why you went into the service-based direction?
Yeah. So the pandemic was one of the best things that happened to us. Our company works a lot with video content. And as the pandemic hit, there was just a lot more video content to work from. Companies were having to turn to video instead of doing live events and things that they used to do in person. And so that was, a huge asset to us as we were growing the company. I went into the service side because I found ways to enhance what we were doing through technology, but found that the fundamentals still require people and will for the next 10 years. There's just certain things you can't automate out. There are certain things that you can't remove through technology, and you really benefit from having actual people. But given my background, I was able to find ways to take that service element and really prop it up on a foundation of technology that made it a lot more efficient, and more importantly, made it something that didn't require my day-to-day oversight. And so it seemed to be, blending the best of both worlds, the best of technology with the creative artistry that requires human beings.
That's awesome. And as mentioned, this has grown very quickly. So why are you deciding to sell the business now instead of keeping it and growing it further?
I wish I could hold on to it. So while I was doing this, an idea came out for a completely unrelated business and a lot more relevant to my background. And as I was trying to grow both, it very quickly got to the point where I realized oh man, I've got to really pick, I've got 2 great horses here and I can't ride both simultaneously. So given that I had already sold a company with Empire Flippers, I thought, man, I would love to see this through to its completion and just not at a spot where I can do that. And so I'm choosing to pursue the second business that's earlier, but I think more relevant to my background and unrelated to what this company is doing. Both sad to say goodbye to this, but also exciting for the right entrepreneur who wants to take it over, because we are just at the beginning of a big inflection point and plenty of room to continue this, but sadly not having the time and capacity to pursue both ideas at the same time.
Yes, well, certainly, I guess a good problem to have in many ways. And yes, leaving the business in a very strong point. So, to get to this level of success, I guess during your journey from 2020, what did you learn from building this business that just seemed to work?
One of the surprising things was we never really experimented too much on customer acquisition because the strategy that we used around email outreach worked so well. And so through a lot of trial and error, we really found the way to articulate what we were doing in a way that got an immediate response from a pretty sizable group of people. And so that was one of the biggest things I learned was that there's a big appetite for what we're doing. There's a real felt need. And a lot of times people don't realize that there's a better way to do what we're doing rather than just fumbling around on their own or doing it ineffectively independently. And so that was one thing was that, email outreach can still be incredibly powerful. And, that said, there's still a lot of channels to explore that I didn't have the time to look at, such as just traditional advertising and marketing. I would say that those are potential avenues for even more growth, but we never had to really delve into that because we had such a strong response to the email strategy we were using.
That's awesome. And was there anything that you did try, though, with this business that didn't work out so well?
So one aspect of what we do, so just broadly speaking, we work with a lot of companies that do podcasts and webinars and virtual events. And the last category, virtual events, was something that I started to explore, and it just never really had the traction that the other two channels did. And so I had looked at companies that work with other companies in the event space, and I thought that could be a channel partner. I thought that could be a reseller. Similarly, did a little bit of digging around ad agencies and marketing agencies and saying, look, we got this great approach. You could use this and sell us to your existing clients. That had some traction, but not much. It was just much easier to go directly to the company. So I would say those were two that just never really panned out for us. Not to say that I would rule them out, but again, there was just so much easier traction going directly to a CEO, CMO, VP of marketing that it wasn't really worth going through an intermediary.
Got it. I know this business is still relatively young, but can you describe the amount and the type of work that you do on this business for maintenance?
So once the second idea that I'm pursuing started to take off, that's kind of when I started to back off on this idea. And fortunately, I had built it in a way that didn't require my direct involvement. I have a team and two different types of technology that kind of automate this. So when I was pulling back, it turned out to be about 2 hours per week of my time. And that was split between client calls with our biggest clients, just kind of interfacing with them every couple of weeks, checking in, seeing how they were doing. Not because it was needed, but because, at that price point, I think clients like to feel like they're dealing with a human being. And so I would kind of insert myself there intentionally. And then second of all, there's, occasionally things that the team I have in place are not able to resolve on their own. And so they would escalate that to me. And then I would just shoot off a quick email or send a note on Slack. And that takes, 5-10 minutes to kind of give direction, but still necessary on the order of, a few times per week. So I would say that's kind of the extreme end of if one is not wanting to be involved. And then obviously, when I had more time to invest or if purchaser wanted to invest more time, I think there's a lot to explore in terms of expanding, of ramping up sales outreach and advertising and marketing and PR around what we're doing. It's very innovative. There's no shortage of things that someone could pursue if they had the inclination. But at a bare minimum, I would say it's about 2 hours a week to kind of keep all the plates spinning properly.
Got it. And you actually started answering that next question already about opportunities, but I'll let you expand on this if you'd like. If you were to keep the business, what are some ways that you would try to grow it?
This is something I would love to explore with whatever jockey takes over this horse, that we are, fortunate to be in a really exploding space and there's so much opportunity there. One that I never pursued was press. I definitely just chose to fly under the radar. And it's innovative enough that if the right person were at the helm of this ship, they could really go and get some buzz going around our approach, around our results, around the traction, around customer success stories. Like there's so much there that I just never effectively sought the spotlight for. So that's first and foremost of just, based on the results we have, getting attention for it. Second of all is just traditional marketing and advertising. We never once spent on any sort of ad, any sort of paid media, any sort of SEO, any sort of AdWords, all of the basic building blocks of companies. We were fortunate to get traction around our email outreach strategy that I never pursued those. But absolutely, if someone were freshly taking over this business, I would, pursue that, because very likely there is some really good basic blocking and tackling, a lot of low-hanging fruit that could be done to get even more customers in the system. So those are two. The third one is just, we stumbled on something that's very powerful, but anyone who's creative can probably think of 5, 10 new products to add in. And anyone who's run a business can see the value of, when you have a good relationship with a client, finding incremental services and products to sell into them is a great way to grow. And, I have good relationships with our clients, but I never really sought to land and expand with them. So that's another area someone with fresh eyes could come in and say, like, okay, I've got a lot of revenue, a lot of great clients. How do I extract more value from them? How do I deliver more value to them? And so those are the top 3 for someone taking over that I would recommend to them.
Yeah, tons of opportunity, it sounds like, for growth. Of course, we would need to mention that there is always some form of risk with any business model, any business that you get into. So for this business in particular, what do you think are the biggest risks that a buyer should be aware of?
I would keep a heavy eye on AI and automation. My jaded perspective is that a lot of people are claiming to be using AI and very few are actually using it. And the perception of what is possible through AI is very far ahead of where we're actually at. That said, I think that our business, just like many businesses, has the potential to be disrupted if someone finds a way through technology to really replace the human element and do it more efficiently through software. I think that's years away and millions of dollars of investment away from occurring, if it's even possible. But if it is possible, it's a huge threat. And so that's one that I would, for our business and any business, I'd always be looking at, how can someone disrupt what we're doing through technology? That would be a big risk. A second risk is that, we work with a lot of companies that are doing podcasts or events or live events, virtual events or webinars. If there's any event that were to disrupt the podcasting industry or make that not a going concern, same for webinars if companies stop doing that. We have, fortunately, 3 different huge industries that we serve. But, if any one of those industries had something affect, if people stop listening to podcasts, I think it's exceptionally unlikely. But if that happened, that would affect us. Or if companies stopped doing webinars and started going to Meta and doing, Meta, metaverse, virtual town halls, I guess that could disrupt us as well. So I don't think those are very likely whatsoever. But we always have to be paying attention to the mediums that feed our business. And if something disrupts that, we get disrupted as well.
Yep, definitely. And that's an interesting perspective. Usually I'll hear about how people say that the advancement is coming faster than the initial expectations. So it's super interesting to hear that, with you actually being firmly in this space, or at least where AI could be a risk, that, the human element is not so easy to take that over for certain tasks.
Yeah, it's something where, fortunately, kind of like the product that we produce is so visible, people can interact with it and see it. We so often hear from our clients of, like, we'll get referrals where they're like, I saw what you guys are doing. I'm like, how are you doing this? This is so much better than anything I've seen. And it's because of our process. It's because of our, there's no way to really do the caliber of work that we're doing through AI. And I feel like people sometimes oversell the AI angle.
Yep, definitely. All right, great. Well, just some housekeeping questions to wrap this up. How much support are you willing to offer to a new buyer?
Always negotiable, but the way that I entered into this was one of generosity. I love this business. I really do wish I could effectively, like Jack Dorsey, run 2 organizations simultaneously, but I'm not Jack Dorsey. And so I put in there 30 days and 4 30-minute Zoom calls. I find that, we can cover a lot of ground in 20 to 30 minutes. And I wanted to have enough of those chunks that I just feel like questions always come up. And so want to be able to support that. So always willing to do more. But, I think that we have a lot of resources in place. I've recorded everything. So like there's a lot of support documents there, but I want to make sure that this company continues to thrive. I hope it's something I point to and tell people like, oh, I actually started that, when it was this small and someone else took it over. I want to make sure that whoever takes over feels really well supported.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. And just making sure, would you commit to a non-compete?
Absolutely. Yeah. With the buyer, happy to share about what I'm doing. It's not in any way, shape, or form related to what this company does. And that's where I'm going to spend the next 5 years of my life at least. So no problem with the non-compete.
Nice. Perfect. All right. And are you open to something like an earnout?
Yeah, definitely, preference for straight buyout. That's what I did with my last company here on Empire Flippers. And I think the business is solid enough that we'll be able to do that. That said, if the best option is an earnout, I'm open to that as well.
Awesome. Okay, last 2 questions. Putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
So I feel like there's 2 potential buyers here. The first one is looking for passive income. And, that's what I've been treating it as I've grown this second business. It's been passive income for me. And I've structured the business where it doesn't really require my attention. It's better than the 4-hour work week that Tim Ferriss talked about. I got the 2-hour work week right now with this. The first one would be if someone's looking for that passive income. I'm really hopeful that the person who buys this is in the second category of someone who just sees a foundation for enormous growth. And if you look at our numbers, this thing is just poised on the verge of greatness. And so if someone is excited about entrepreneurship and may not have an idea, I have the perfect platform for you. I have the perfect horse that's in need of a capable jockey. And, I'm confident that if I had just pursued this solely, this has the potential to be something massive, but I unfortunately don't have that luxury of time and attention. So I'm really hopeful that the person that takes this over is just willing to take what we've got and just take it 10 times further. And I know we've got the structure in place. We've got everything there to do it. I just need someone who's smart, who's capable, and who's driven. And in those hands, this is going to be something massive.
Yeah, definitely. Very exciting. All right. Well, last question. I think you've covered a lot, but is there anything you'd like to add that you think I might have missed during the interview?
I think that, although I came from a tech background, although I came from a business background, I want to dispel that is in any way, shape, or form needed here. This business needs someone who is smart, savvy, and driven. You do not need to know everything about social media. You don't not need to know everything marketing. You don't need to know everything about anything. You just need to be a smart, capable, driven person. No prior knowledge needed, no prior certifications needed. This just needs someone who is ready to, ideally put their head to the grindstone and grow it, or sit back and reap the rewards of the passive income. But I just wanted to dispel that, although I came into this with 10 years of entrepreneurship experience, this could be the business for a first-time owner, first-time operator. There's a lot of guardrails here. It's like bumper bowling with business. So want to make sure that you don't feel like there's some sort of requirements to take the helm.
Well, thank you for adding that. And I think on that note, that's the perfect spot to wrap this up. So, Justin, thank you so much for sharing your story. Welcome back, of course, and joining us on today's episode. And yeah, I hope your business, like the last one, is purchased in the near future and by the right buyer.
Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 59835. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.